I just want to do God's will.
The kind of revolution that the world needs is a Christian revolution.
If you want a miracle, you've got to expect it to happen.
You are the recipients of God's grace and God's blessings, and you rejoice in that reality.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Life Today Live. Jordan Brinkschroeder here. You know, this morning I was thinking about some of my favorite Bible stories. I know we all have our favorites, and one of mine is from the book of Matthew. Jesus and his disciples, they're in a boat, and Jesus is like, I'm going to go take a nap, which I immediately am drawn to. I'm a big lover of naps, and the water starts raging, and the disciples get so nervous, and they are fearful, and they're like, Jesus, wake up. Jesus, we're going to die. We're going to drown. And he's like, you have little faith. Come on, I'm Jesus, I got this. And immediately he calmed the storms. You know, it completely reminds us that even in the storms of life, even when the Lord seems silent, even when we're not hearing from him, we can, number one, trust that he's always in our boat. And number two, just know that we can trust him that he will calm the seas. He will calm the waters. And I'm excited to have our author today, Albee Swenson. She's got a book about you can trust God when life hurts. And so we're going to get into the hard things today. So if you're going through it a little bit, stay tuned and be encouraged. Thanks so much, Amber, for being on the program today.
I am so blessed to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. You know, a lot of times we say that when we're going through hard things, it's really, really hard to trust God. Where did this book come from? Because I know we've all had moments where we're just trying to cling to the truth, trying to cling to our faith. Where did this kind of originate for you?
Yeah, I mentioned in the introduction of the book that a mentor of mine told me many years ago that when times are good, fortify yourself for when times are not so good. And I thought, what a strange thing to say. But now that I've lived life long enough, I realize that this struggle, the hardships, the suffering is just such a part of life. And so this book is meant to be a hand to hold if you're going through a season of hard times right now, but it's also meant to be your fortification if you're not. So if if things are going really well right now, get in the Word and figure out what to do when times aren't so great, because those times will come to all of us.
That's awesome. You know, it doesn't matter what kind of season we're in, whether we're in the great part or hard part or in between, we can always kind of be gearing up with the Lord for what we're in and what comes next, you know. And yeah. I love you talk about creation. You know, the Lord's creation is beautiful, and for everything, it has a purpose. And how could his creation possibly get us through those kind of hard times in life?
It's amazing to me how every time you read the Bible, different things stick out to you. And last fall, I was reading my Bible. I read the first 7 or 8 books of the Old Testament. And it occurred to me for probably the first time in my life that God created the world for us. It wasn't that he was creating it for himself. He didn't come down here to live. I mean, Jesus lived here for 33 years, but he created the beauty of creation for us. I mean, think about that. I have a friend who likes to say he could have created one kind of tree, one kind of flower, one kind of bird, one kind of animal. No, he gave us amazing variety, colors, smells, just this amazing earth to live in. And we take it for granted, like everything that we get used to. We don't realize what a beautiful thing this is to be able to look at creation, to see how it all works together in ways that are way incomprehensible to me. The way, one season leads to a next, that the trees give off carbon dioxide, we give off, we need the oxygen and all. I think I got that wrong. I think the trees give off oxygen and use the carbon dioxide.
We know what you mean. Potato,
But the point being that creation is so beautiful and marvelous, and it should be our reminder every single day that there's a God in heaven and that he loves us and that he works on our behalf.
Absolutely. That's so beautiful. I remember I think we can all kind of pinpoint back to really hard seasons in our lives and what that was like, and how do you kind of recover from those moments. And one of the things that was just so key in my healing process was just going on walks with my dog. I used to live by the Trinity River and just going with her. And you mentioned the trees. And that's when I started to recognize and realize, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. You know, something that maybe when you're in a great time of life, you're not going to possibly acknowledge as much. You know, maybe you do. But for me, I didn't. And in this time, it was just really being able to look at those trees and see, like, the Lord blesses that. And the flowers. And just as he loves them, he loves me. And so I know that his purpose for me is good, you know? And so I love that. I love being reminded of that. And, you know, I think a lot of times we say that when we're hurt, sometimes we use that as an excuse of the way that we respond and we react to people. We say, oh, well, you know, hurt people. But does it always have to be that way?
No, especially for God's children, it should be just the opposite. In fact, what you realize is that when I'm hurt and I'm hurting other people, I'm just multiplying the hurt. And that's not really the way God wants us to do things. There's a different way, a better way. And that is, you mentioned it, healing from your hurt. Recognizing that you're stuck in your hurt. A lot of times it's the resentment, it's the bitterness, it's those things that are growing up in us that is making us lash out at other people. And those need to be dealt with. If we don't deal with them, we're just stuffing them down and they erupt, right? And so the point being that when we are hurt and we know that we're hurt, take the time to heal. Take the time to talk through it, get the help you need, journal through it if you need to, lots of prayer, Christian friends who can walk you through it so that you can heal. Because a better plan is when you're going through a season of hurt, because you're not just going to be hurt once. So you need to heal from that hurt the first time, because then the next time that you are in a season of hurt and pain again, you'll be more prone to be empathetic aid to everybody who's going through something. So why lash out at them? Because they're likely to be going through something too. And B, in that moment, instead of lashing out, instead of thinking that, you know, everybody owes us something because we're going through a hard time, you're more likely to say, hey, you know what? God is going to do something amazing in this season. So I'm just going to sit here patiently waiting, or not patiently waiting, depending on the day. But I know God's in control here. But what I'm not going to do is hurt everybody else because I'm going through something.
I think it's really self-aware to be able to acknowledge, hey, I'm the problem. You know, I think a lot of times, and I am so guilty, I'll be like, I just cannot believe that they said this and that they did this and blah, 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 blah. How can we be more self-aware to realize that, you know, maybe sometimes the things that we receive are people's actually responses to the way that we are treating them? How can we be better relationally?
Boy, that is huge. And I think it's a maturity issue. I think I have young adults right now. And so often I'm telling them, yes, what you're complaining about is a big deal if you are the only one we're thinking about. But, you know, when we look at the big picture here, and when we see it in terms of family or church body or city or the United States or whatever, when we take self out of a situation and say, oh, what really is the situation? Things look so much different. And I think there's a maturity thing that goes with that. And also having friends. If you have good, godly Christian friends who can point that out, golden, because I can get lost in myself. I can get in the moping, oh, this is terrible. And I have good friends, good Christian friends who are likely to say, well, we don't know if it's terrible yet, Amber. Hold on. Let's wait and see what God's going to do with this. Or how do you not know that God doesn't have you here to help somebody else go through this situation? I mean, you're only looking at it, oh, this is hard to get through right now from Amber's perspective. But maybe that other person that you're meeting because of this situation needs to know God. And so God is putting you in a position to help someone else. So when you have those good Christian friends who can point that out, boy, that really helps with the whole self-awareness factor.
Absolutely. And it's so much better to be the friend pointing it out than to be the friend that's having to receive it, right? You know, a lot of times we focus on our faithfulness to our friends and our faithfulness to God. But how can we focus on what's the good and the fruit from God's faithfulness to us in these hard seasons?
Well, when we study the Bible, we see that God does not leave us and that he has our good in mind. And so when we really trust him, we know for sure that something good will come from this. It may stink in the moment. It may be hard in the moment. But when you read the Bible, you see that was true for all his people. He put the hard times in. It was hard for Naomi and Ruth. It was hard for Moses leading the children of Israel. It was hard for the children of Israel. It was hard for the Apostle Paul. He talks about how hard it was. That doesn't mean that God was not faithful. You see that all through these things, all through these people in the Bible, their experiences and their accounts, God was weaving a beautiful picture that person couldn't see in the moment. We get to look back. We get the 2020. We get to look back and see, oh, wow, look at this great thing God did. And we so often don't realize God's faithfulness is producing something in us too. We just have to let it ride out. In the middle of the situation, it can look pretty bleak and pretty messy, but the situation isn't over.
Right.
It didn't look good for any of those people in the middle of their times either. So we have to ride it out. God's faithfulness will carry us through, and there will be something. There will be some reason down the line that we can point to and say, that's what he was doing.
Yeah, those hard moments, but God, right? Then these Red Sea moments and these manna moments come. Have you had those in your own personal life?
Yes. And I very much prefer the Red Sea moments.
Right.
I very much, and by that I mean, if you're wondering, what is a Red Sea moment? Well, when the children of Israel got to the Red Sea after they were led out of Egypt, Pharaoh's army was behind them and there was a sea in front of them, and God just opened up the waters. And there's this dramatic rescue. And let's face it, we all want the dramatic rescue. Things are not going great. God, just make it go away. Just open the water, do something, make this situation. I don't want to be sick. I don't want to go through the process of going. I just want it to be gone. And sometimes God miraculously does that. He does. He parts the water. He prevents the accident. The relationship that was going down the wrong path is healed. And that's wonderful. But we also read about the children of Israel being in the desert for 40 years. And God sustained them with manna, which came one day at a time. There was only one day that they got to gather for 2 days because they were to take a Sabbath rest. But otherwise, they were every day, God was providing them with what they need. And he does the same for us. Sometimes it's going to be the strength we need to get through today, the encouragement, the hope. He's just going to give us the little nugget that we need today. And tomorrow, we're going to have to go back to him for the next nugget. It doesn't come dramatically, but in both ways, he's sustaining and providing. We definitely prefer one over the other, but they're both God and they're both his faithfulness.
So you're saying I can't just go to church one day a week. That's enough, right? Or my prayers one time a day.
I think that's a great start for people who have not dabbled yet. Please go to church one day a week. But boy, when you start realizing who God is and what he can do for you, there is incredible benefit. There have been studies that have shown that there's incredible benefits when you're in the Bible 4 days a week or more. Things change dramatically, as in your depression goes away, anxiety, you can overcome your addictions. Life changes when you connect with God 4 days a week or more. So going to church one day a week is a great place to start. But if you really want your life to change, you might want to open your Bible a little bit more than that.
Right. And I heard this yesterday. Take church home with you. I was like, oh my gosh. And there was an illustration. We were in chapel at Life Today. And amazing preacher Vaughn. He was like, there's two different people. There's this illustration. There's this one man who has all these characteristics. And then there's this other man who has all these other ones. Right. This one man takes church home with him. And this other man does not take church home with him. Right. But this man right here that does take it home with him, he's able to withstand more things, right? Because he's built up these muscles. He's able to exercise these faith muscles, right? And if you're not used to exercising that much, it's going to be harder to take things on because we try to take things on by ourselves. Yeah. You know, we don't rely on the Lord's faithfulness. That's not our muscle response, our immediate response to turn to him. Instead, we look inward rather than upward, you know? And so
it's beautiful.
What are some of your great? It was life-changing for me. I was like, this is awesome. Let me take it home with me, you know?
Yeah.
What are some of your keys to surviving in in your hardest times?
I've already mentioned one of them. Friends have become a really important thing to me, Christian friends, because so often I can only see one thing. I'm stuck in a rut of just complaining or not understanding and not seeing. And my friends can take me out of that. They can listen kindly and then say, okay, you might feel this way, but let's look at the big picture or whatever. So friends are huge. Prayer. I have a group of people that I pray with, and I have seen amazing things happen when you go and you are vulnerable and you get on your knees or not. I don't, however you pray is good. But when you go before the Lord with other people vulnerably and say, man, I cannot do this on my own, and I definitely need you and help me, there is some serious life-changing things that come from that. So prayer, friends, being in the Word, it's almost like the more you're in the Word, the more you know God. The more you know God, the more you're going to trust God, because you're going to see how often He did it in the past, and you're also going to see all His attributes. So you're going to read the Bible and you're going to go, oh, He is all powerful. If He's all powerful, He can change this in my life. You're going to read the Bible and you're going to say, He noticed the leper. That means He cares about what I'm going through. All the things that you read in the Bible, it's just going to make you more willing to trust Him. And so Bible study, prayer, good Christian friends, those are the top of the list when you're going through something to really get you through.
What do you do when God says no? Or when God seems like He's silent, when we're begging and praying for an answer, but it doesn't seem like He's coming through or like He cares? Or we read those Bible stories where He sees the leper and we feel like he's walking right past us and He doesn't see us.
Yeah. I'm in my older years now, and so it's easier for me to say, if God is saying no, it's only because there's something better down the road, either for His glory or for my life. So Mary and Martha did get the healing of Lazarus, but not in their time. He was buried first. And so often we want things in our time, in our way. I think this would be the good path for my life, God. So if you could just make that happen, we'll go that path. And when God says no, that might be because I'm not ready for that path. Or it might be because I would do something that would dishonor Him if I went down that path. Or it might be that there's a danger in that path that I don't see. I look at that path and it looks all good to me, but He knows down the line, there's something that could derail my faith or somebody else's faith. And so as I've gotten older, I'm not going to say this was easy in my younger years, and I'm not going to say it's always easy. I am more likely, when God says no, to be saying, okay, if this isn't the route, you show me where you want me to go. We're given this amazing account with the Apostle Paul, who is trying to get to Asia. Twice he goes there and he's blocked. And then he sees this vision of the man from Macedonia. And when he goes, he has this amazing ministry experience. He was put in jail. But the book to the Philippians is one of the most joy-filled books that we have, because there was such fruitful ministry there. So even the Apostle Paul was told no sometimes. We don't know why he didn't get to go to Asia. We just know God had a different path for him, and it was fruitful.
Something that you said really stuck out to me, for His glory. And a lot of times we think, when we're wanting something, this would be great for me. This would be awesome. I would look so great. I would look so wonderful. But we have to remember that we're not here for us. We're here to spread His good news. Our body is not our own. Our lives are not our own, but they are a living sacrifice to Him. And so I'm super grateful for that reminder and all of these amazing, tangible ways that we can truly try to actually put into practice how we can trust God, not just say, oh yeah, just trust Him, just do it. Because a lot of times we say that and it's like, what does that actually look like? What does that look like when we're trying to hold on, when it doesn't feel natural, when it doesn't come the way that it should? A lot of times we look in the Bible with the prodigal son. Sometimes we're the prodigal son, or sometimes we're the other son who's staying back and being faithful. What do you say? What is God's heart towards the prodigal son? What should our heart be towards those in our lives who are maybe prodigals and running away from the Lord?
Oh, never give up. If I could say one thing, never, ever, ever give up on your prodigals. Never quit praying for them. Never quit pointing them to the Lord. When you read through the Bible, you find God's heart towards the prodigal is that he always responds when they turn to him. A lot of times in our lives, the prodigals have done enough damage that when they come back, some people aren't willing to accept them anymore. But that's not how it is with God. Yeah. In fact, Hezekiah's son Manasseh was so incredibly evil. Hezekiah had done so much good. He had turned the people's hearts back to God. And then he dies, and Manasseh, his son, comes up and just puts the idols back up, turns the people back to evil. God allows him to be carried away. And in prison, he calls out to God. And God reinstates him as king. And he gets rid of the idols. And you think, wait a second, here's somebody who has done some serious bad. I mean, really bad. And when he called out to God, God was like, hey, glad to have you home. And that's why we never quit praying for our prodigals, no matter how bad it looks. We keep praying. We can't see their heart. And the prayers are prayers like, God, help them to see that the world is not going to offer them what you can. Turn them from their wickedness, turn them back to you, be like sandpaper so that they, on their feet, so that they can never get content in the world. But they remember a time when they were walking with you, and that was where they found their hope and their peace, and bring them back to us and bring them back to you. And I have even seen and heard stories of people who have prayed for prodigals and never seen the result. But after they died, those prodigals have come back, which is why you keep praying, even if you never see the answer to your prayers.
Amber, you better preach, girl. I was like, yes. I feel like I'm ready to go. I'm pumped. I'm excited. I'm so grateful for your ministry and for sharing with us today different ways that we can trust the Lord and walking us through that. You guys, I want you to make sure that you go out and You Can Trust God When Life Hurts by Amber Albee Swenson. You can also check out her website at amberalbeeswenson.org. We just thank you so much for being on Life Today with us. Amber, do you have anything else that you would want to leave our listeners with today?
Don't ever feel as if you are forgotten by God. I know that in the hard seasons, if somebody is going through a hard season right now, it can feel at times like maybe God has just forgotten you. And I just want to make sure you understand nothing is further from the truth. He sees you. He knows you. He listens to you. Don't give up on God. He will definitely never give up on you.
Amber, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you guys for being with us on Life Today Live. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you guys next time. Have an awesome day.
To choose to come, to choose to bend our necks, to choose to bend our necks, and to choose to learn, to learn, to choose to learn, to choose to learn.
It is always possible to do the will of God.
Nobody can prevent you from doing the will of God.